Hi, everyone. David Aragona and Mike Beer here taking a look at the DRF Wednesday race of the day. It is the 8th race at Horseshoe Indianapolis, one of a couple of stakes on that card for 3-year-olds on the turf. This one is the Caesars Handicap for the 3-year-old males going the 1 mile distance on the grass course. Field of 8 signed on. We'll get to that in just a little bit, but it is the start of Preakness week. The second leg of the Triple Crown is already upon us, so you do want to get your PP set for the Preakness. You can do your shopping at shop.drf.com. Get those handicapping packages. The betting strategies also available. I'll be writing those, so if you want to get my picks for the entire Preakness card on Saturday, check those out at shop.drf.com. Well, Mike, we've got this 8-horse field for the Caesars Handicap, and pretty interesting race. We've got a couple of runners in here for some top barns. Wesley Ward sending out the number 7 Clock Tower. We've got some top jockeys coming in to ride this race like Luis Saez and Jose Ortiz. Nice field.
Yeah, it is a pretty good field because the two, shorter prices on the morning line, the one Chasing Liberty, you already mentioned Clock Tower for Ward. They're both already stakes winners. They're both pretty good horses, David. And it just feels like this might be a better spot for both of them as opposed to what they've been facing more recently. But there are a couple of other horses in here who are really interesting.
With this being the DRF race of the day, do note you can get free past performances for this race. Like I say every week, it's really easy. Just create that free account at DRF.com, head on over to the race of the day page, and you get free PPs for every race of the day, including this one to handicap along with Mike and I with Classic, Formulator, or Timeform US, all of those covered under the race of the day. Well, Mike, let's take a look at the Timeform US pace projector for this race because it does feel like there is a good amount of speed signed on here, and you kind of know what the game plan is going to be with the number 7 Clock Tower. He's a horse that runs his best races when he can be up on the front end, but he could have some competition in getting there because don't know what we're going to get from the number 5 Goldwyn trying turf for the first time. And actually the other horse that's shown actually outright on the lead, the number 8 Brodeur, another horse that's trying the turf, but both of those have early speed.
Yeah, there's enough speed in this race for sure. I did feel like the 8 Brodeur, he's going to have to bring his speed over to turf, but if he brings it, I think he is fastest in this race and can make the lead even from the outside post. I just wonder, how comfortable he'll be able to get up there, David, because there are some other horses who, are expected to be forwarded here. And I think that does include Clock Tower, right? I just think he's better when he's able to be, involved on the pace from the start. So we'll see how fast they go.
Yeah, they've tried raiding Clock Tower the past couple of times, kind of by necessity because they've been some quicker paced races. But I think they're going to try to get back to the game plan that's worked for him in the past, and that is going straight to the front. Let's go through this field from the rail out, beginning with the number 1 Chasing Liberty. And we'll take a look at the replay of his last race in the Transylvania, where he was competing against his main rival in here, Clock Tower. That's Clock Tower, who is contesting the pace at the top of the stretch, the chestnut with the big white face. That is Chasing Liberty, who's ranging up on the outside. And briefly looks like these two might take over the race, Mike, but this Transylvania really falls apart in the late stages as they went quickly up front. The horse that was setting the pace, Mibago, is very fast, and he set some fractions that I think forced this race to ultimately collapse. Chasing Liberty ran pretty well within the context of the race, making that move to challenge in mid-stretch, and then just couldn't go with that field at the end. I feel like turning back to the flat mile is going to definitely be better for him.
I agree with that. I just also feel like, this is pretty significant class relief for him out of that last one. And to me, more than anything else, it just sort of makes him a horse that you at least have to take a second look at in there. I mean, when I went back through that Transylvania, I thought Saez did everything right there. And he gave this horse every chance to win, David. To me, he just wasn't good enough. And I just think this is a way better spot for him.
He reminds me a lot of a Rob Atras trainee from last year, Neat, who won a bunch of turf stakes in the middle part of the season, and they picked their spots really well to win races just like this one. And it feels like they've picked out a really good spot for Chasing Liberty here. The number 2 is Up to No Good, a horse who is trying turf for the first time. And that's a theme in this race. Several of these horses are trying the grass for the first time in the Caesars Handicap. And Mike, this one is just going to have to improve quite a bit. Looking through, I didn't see a ton of turf pedigree with this horse, so he's just going to be a real outsider in this race.
Yeah, there are a couple of interesting horses outside of the 2 morning line favorites, as we already talked about. I didn't feel like this was one of them. He's just really hard to make a case for. It'll be a big price.
One of the more interesting alternatives to those 2 favorites is the number 3 Sing Sing, and we'll take a look at his most recent start, Mike. And I'm going to turn it over to you because this was an interesting trip to watch. It just seemed like these horses were drunken sailors coming through the stretch, a lot of trouble, and you could see Sing Sing kind of gets caught in the middle of it.
Yeah, exactly. This pace was actually pretty solid as well. And listen, Sing Sing had a little trouble into the first turn when horses sort of cleared him from the outside. And overall, David, he was in a pretty good spot for most of this race. But when you're sitting in the, sitting just in behind the leaders like he was for most of the trip, you either want to get an inside run or you want to get out into the clear through the stretch. Yep. And he got neither of those and just sort of wound up over behind horses the entire way. I don't think he was winning anyway when that horse came running alongside him there and put him in between lane. He had to steady, but it still cost him a little something in there. I don't know. I thought he ran fine in that race. And I just really liked his only turf start as a 2-year-old too. I know he wired that field, but I just thought he ran really well in there, just taking pressure on the lead the entire way. And he just stayed on really, really gamely in there. I think this horse could really move forward here second off the layoff.
Yeah, that turf debut going back to July of his 2-year-old season, that was his third start of the form cycle. So he might not have been ready to produce his best effort coming off the long layoff last time. And it could be reasonable to expect a step forward here. And that field that he beat in that Ellis Park turf race going back to July has produced some really nice horses to come back and improve their speed figures since then. So it seems like that was a very live race at the time. The number 4, Discreet Dancer, is one that we may or may not see run here because he just competed 5 days ago at Churchill Downs where he barely lost in a head bob against first level allowance competition. That was a nice step forward for him, Mike, and he's been heading in the right direction. Just I doubt that he's going to actually run back in 5 days.
Yeah, wheeling back here, it seems like it's probably not going to happen for him. But if he does, I mean, there are things going. He has things going for him here if he does run here because the pace could be fast and he's going to sort of sit back and make one run here. I don't know, man. You go back and watch that race last time. That was a brutal bob that he
really was.
Because he was by that horse at the end and he just got out-knotted somehow in that race.
The number 5, Goldwyn, is going to be another big price in this race. Another horse that's trying turf for the first time. He's only competed on the dirt so far. 3 sprints to start his career. They stretched out around the 2 turns last time when he concluded his 2-year-old campaign in a stakes race against the Indiana breds. He's been off for a long time, Mike. Going through this pedigree, there's a little turf on the bottom side. His dam did win on it 4 times, but she was a 15-time winner overall, so it's not like she was some turf specialist.
She was just more versatile than anything else, but she handled turf, so there's a little bit of it on the dam side. This isn't really a turf sire. Maximus Mischief, he wasn't a turf horse. He doesn't really get turf winners either. I don't know, man. If this is where they're going to start him back off the layoff, I'm just assuming it's a prep race for something else because he can't beat these horses.
The number 6, Smokin' Boy, yet another horse trying the turf for the first time. He looked like he was a horse with some potential when he started out his career in Puerto Rico last year as a 2-year-old. A couple of visually impressive wins, but again, suspect competition racing down there. And he came to the continental United States for 3 races, Mike, and just has been a big disappointment. All of those were on the dirt. Now they're going to try the turf. He's second off the claim for some new connections and just don't see a ton of pedigree with this horse.
I don't either. I mean, on the face of it anyway, he's a Catholic boy out of a Cairo Prince mare. All right, there's enough turf there, but there's not really that much performance there. It just kind of feels like they're just trying to figure out now what to do with this horse. But obviously they ran him in the wrong race last time off the claim, so I'm not going to be too hard on him for it. But how good is this horse really?
The number 7 is Clock Tower. He was the other horse highlighted in that Transylvania replay we watched earlier for Chasing Liberty. And Mike, I think the pace was just a little bit too honest for him last time because we mentioned that Mark Casse trading Mibago, who ran off on the front end. Clock Tower was forced to chase him as a horse that just kind of needs to be forward to run his best races. And he got there in mid-stretch, couldn't finish it off, kind of like Chasing Liberty. He's another one that I think might just max out at the mile distance. So a really fast run, a fast pace going the mile and the 16th was just a bit too much for him to handle. I like him getting back to the mile here, but I do kind of wonder if he was a horse that was just a really good 2-year-old. And I have some reservations about whether or not we're going to see that progression during his 3-year-old season.
It'll be interesting to see what he can do here. I'm not going to give up on him yet. I really did like him as a 2-year-old. And I say that realizing that when he won the grade 3 out there at Del Mar, I mean, they just let him walk at a really slow pace that day. So that race didn't thrill me, but I remember really liking his maiden win on the grass. I know it was at Kentucky Downs, but I just thought he looked really good winning that race. And listen, I don't care about the Lewis. I don't really think he's a dirt horse anyway. His pedigree says dirt, but his dirt races are all bad in my opinion. And I'm not so sure if he didn't run just as well as Chasing Liberty last time, he might have run better than that horse considering how fast that pace was.
And we probably should mention the horse that he was chasing on the front end, Me Bago, came back and ran a vastly improved race in the American Turf, a grade 1 on Kentucky Derby Day. I think he improved his Beyer 24 points. The number 8 is Brodeur, another horse trying turf for the first time. I think that's the case for half of this field. But Mike, this one I think has some credentials to maybe handle the surface. You look at the pedigree, he's by Nyquist. Nyquist is a versatile sire who can get horses to do anything. The turf stats are definitely okay, and he sired some pretty nice horses on the turf, including Johannes, who was in the running to be turf champion turf male last season. You go through the dam side pedigree, there's not a ton of turf there immediately, but you go back a little further, second, third generation. This is that Aurora family of Arch, Festival of Light. There are some really good turf horses that have been produced from this female family. And when I watch this horse run, to me, he's got the stride of a horse that should really take to the turf. He's got these big loping action to him. And I find it very interesting that these connections, the same connections that started Chunk of Gold in the Kentucky Derby, know how to pick out a horse. They dipped in for $125,000 to claim this horse out of his last race at Keeneland. When you're spending that much on a claim, I feel like you've got to have some plan about how to move that horse forward. And maybe they have the idea of trying turf in the back of their minds.
Yeah, sure. I noted that too. The reaching in for 125 for this horse sort of made me take a second look at him. And by the way, I thought he ran when he won those 2 dirt races at Oaklawn Park. I know they were both over wet tracks. I thought he ran really well in both of those races. So I do think there's some talent here. Like you, I found plenty of pedigree here to not be worried about the surface switch at all. You know, I am a little worried that he seems like a horse who's just kind of one-way speed, and this pace could be fast. So I wonder if that really works against him. But he seems like a pretty dangerous horse in here if he's anywhere around that morning line price.
Yeah, that's the big concern. He hasn't shown that he can rate yet, but we'll see if he can work out a different kind of trip on the turf. Before we get to our picks for this race, make sure to like this video, leave us a comment if you have thoughts on this race. We'd love to hear what your pick is, and also make sure to subscribe to that Daily Racing Form YouTube channel. We've got a lot of content planned coming later this week around the Preakness Stakes. Let's throw up our picks for this Wednesday race of the day, Mike, and you're going to go with the number 3 Sing Sing, who does look like a candidate to move forward second off the layoff.
Yeah, liked his only turf start last year, and just feel like he didn't get a great trip off the layoff last time. And I think even though it may not look like he'd move forward, I think maybe he did move forward in that race. He can move forward again here. And I just felt like there was going to be enough pace for this horse to just sort of sit somewhere off of it and come with a run.
Yeah, I agree. Among those with turf experience, he's the one that I ranked the highest. I think he could be the best value of those. I did put the number 8 Brodeur on top. I just see the turf pedigree with him. I see the turf physicality with him, and I'm hoping he can move forward on the surface at a little bit of a price. So 8-3-1-7 for me, 3-7-1-4 for Mike in the DRF Wednesday race of the day, the Caesars Handicap Race 8 at Horseshoe Indianapolis. Good luck if you're playing the races later this week.